If you are a consistent and constant viewer of this channel, I want you to repeat after me, right? You know what I'm about to say, so say it with me. The NBA is the gift that keeps on giving. The Los Angeles Clippers, a team who, like, just when you thought it could get no worse for them, right? Probably, arguably, the most disappointing team in the entire association. They are 5-16, currently on a 5-game losing streak. Y'all know I just made my video about the Clippers a couple days ago. So I'm very well coursed in everything that's going wrong with them. And in the midst of everything that's going wrong, for whatever reason, they get a genius idea of releasing and sending Chris Paul home. Now, on one accord and one note, there is no problem with releasing a player or moving on or cutting ties with a player. But I just don't understand why the Clippers always have to do things in such a disgusting fashion. And this is why I believe that there is some drama or there is some tension or something. It's just off. Number one, when I got this report last night, I was going to bed. I stayed up a little late playing NBA 2K because we have today, Wednesdays off. So I was like, I might as well, use the most of my night where I can stay up a bit because usually I would be in bed before this news would even hit my phone. And when I first saw it, I thought it was fake. I'm like, what? Like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, why would the Clippers, like, Chris Paul doesn't even play? And then I looked and checked my credible sources, and it was very real. And then you got the people that started to say, hey, look at Chris Paul's Instagram. And I go to his Instagram, and he's announcing that he's been sent away. And again, I'm like, releasing a player at 3 o'clock in the morning is like very cowardly. And it's only the Clippers would do something like this. Only the Clippers would release not just a player, but arguably one of the driving forces to bringing them back to relevancy. You can give that to Blake Griffin or Chris Paul. But the Lob City era of the Clippers was the brightest time in the history of that organization from what I remember them to be. Growing up, they had a couple of years where they were solid. Sam Cassell, Sean Livingston, Elton Brand, those teams made the playoffs. I think they went like 6 games with the Suns or whatnot in the early 2000s. But since then, they had just been a poverty franchise, didn't even have their own arena. You know what I mean? Like the stepchild of Los Angeles, if you will, compared to the Lakers and all of the glitz and glamour and the success and the names that the Lakers had, Shaq and Kobe. And then, the Clippers, no disrespect, have Michael Olowokandis of the world and things like that. And then you get handed, or not handed, because I guess they earn with all of the losing, Blake Griffin. But then you do kind of get handed Chris Paul because originally Chris Paul was supposed to be traded to the Lakers. We know how that situation panned out. He goes into the Clippers and he gives you a serious edge. Chris Paul now makes the Clippers respected. He gives them a championship level presence and he allows them to be taken serious around the NBA. And that was like the first time where the Clippers were, again, a relevant team, a team that was in contention. And some people were picking at those years to win a championship. And so to look at everything that he was able to bring to the Clippers organization, who needed it, this organization needed all of the energy that Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, all of the energy that they pumped into Staples Centers on those nights, and all of those playoff series for the first time for some of those fans, and actually to have championship hope. Chris Paul is a big reason for that. And that was part of the reason why he joined you guys. Because this is his last year. Because he wanted to stay close to his family. Because he thought this team was going to have some competitive edge that he could just be a part of, right? Because who wants to be on a team that's not playing for anything on the last year of their career? And by all means, I'm going to speculate because the information from both sides is very limited as of right now. But it has to be something that's not right. I think there's a way to do this. So there's people that's like, hey, they're not playing up to par. They could be canning a year. Maybe they feel like they owe it to Chris Paul to allow him to go somewhere where he could get those things he probably wanted to end his career. But I don't think you handle that with a 3 o'clock in the morning announcement. I don't think Chris Paul goes on his own social media platform to announce or to get ahead of this to let us know that, hey, I'm being sent home. Like, I just got told I'm being sent. That doesn't sound like somebody that's in collaboration with this move, or that somebody that's asking to be let go. Right? And even the statement from Lawrence Frank and the Clippers of like, you know, this doesn't have anything to do with, you know, our performance. You know, we're not saying Chris Paul is responsible. Like, it's just very weird. And it's something that I don't think anybody would expect or have expected. I don't think anybody's done anything like this. But again, and I hate to do this because I feel like the Clippers have made major strides. But the Clippers, like, they find ways to do things in a way that's just classless. The Blake Griffin situation and how they did him with the retirement, you know, proposal and come back just for them to trade him. And not only did they trade him, this is no shot at my Detroit Cousins, but at the time, the Pistons, like, to go from LA all your career and then the playoff success, and then you go to Detroit, who's struggling in the East, and, you know, it's just different. And again, it was blindsided, and you had his, you know, his feelings towards the organization in Ballmer. Now you got this. Obviously, not too many people ever picks the side of Paul George, but even some of the stories he was talking about was he kind of felt like he was done a little bit dirty, and there was some lack of understanding there. The whole Kawhi Leonard aspiration stuff, which they have not been proven guilty, and I'm not one of those people that's willing to just, you know, punish them or pretend that they have been proven guilty until we get that information. But just all of this stuff, the Donald Sterling stuff, which is before Ballmer, but still, there's just things that track and follow with the Los Angeles Clippers that are not positive. And there's probably some things that I'm not thinking of right now that fits this as well, that somebody in the comments were probably going to bring up or whatnot. Clipper Darrell, did they do something with him? Like, was there some beef or something there, like, that I'm thinking of in the back of my mind? I can't quite, like, put my finger on it. I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't understand it. It's supposed to be a farewell tour, if you will, celebrating the legacy and the career of Chris Paul, and to see them do this, it makes me think of one thing, and I'm going to continue to speculate, and maybe by the time I put this video out or later this day, we'll get the rest of the details. But by all means, maybe I'll be right with my speculation. This feels like a move out of ego. This feels like Chris Paul was maybe speaking up. Chris Paul has always been opinionated. He's never been a guy that has, you know, bit his tongue for anybody. And that's part of some of the personality that we know from Chris Paul as a point guard and as a leader and as a player of the NBA. He's never been afraid to use his voice. And I could imagine a 5-16 start with as many veteran players that they have in that locker room, as many leaders and guys who have been leaders in previous stops. I can see a lot of accountability trying to be had, and it may have been met with some force, and the force was making a decision like this. Am I the only one? Y'all let me know in the comments as I say this. Like, y'all picture a 5-16 team in a locker room during a halftime losing to some of these teams that they should not be losing to, and there's no way you think Chris Paul is going in there and just sitting at his locker on his phone. He's not sitting in there like a rookie or like a, you know, a spider on a wall. You know Chris Paul is in there holding people accountable. And I can imagine a reaction of some people like, well, what do you, like, you don't even play, or you get what I'm saying? And Chris Paul's accountability is not just for players. I could see Chris Paul saying some things to a coaching staff. You know, I could see Chris Paul speaking to a GM like Lawrence Frank. I could see Chris Paul saying something to a Kawhi Leonard. I could see Chris Paul saying something to a James Harden, right? And that's what this move feels like to me. Like, Chris Paul is in there trying to hold people accountable. He's in there voicing opinions. He's in there saying how disgusting some of these losses are. He's in there echoing some of the same things that me or you who are watching these games are saying and thinking. The things I'm saying in my videos about the Clippers, the things we're all saying on social media. We have to remember, there's no way that they walk out of the locker rooms feeling good about themselves at 5-16. Tempers have to be flared. I could imagine some arguments have been had. And again, everybody doesn't come from a place where they're held accountable. And I could see the Clippers feeling like, hey, we're already struggling. We don't need any more tension. We don't need our locker room divided. I don't know if that's one thing. Is there a divide in the locker room because of Chris Paul? I have no idea. I'm just speculating. But a move like this does not strike me as something positive. It isn't like, hey, we're disappointed. We're going to free Chris Paul so he can go somewhere and play on a team that's more competitive to have a proper farewell tour. That feels like a press conference. That feels like something more classy. That feels like something that doesn't happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. It feels like Chris Paul doesn't go to his Instagram page in the middle of the night to tell us, right? And even the verbiage, sent home. How do you send Chris Paul? You don't send Chris Paul home. Chris Paul is one of the best point guards of all time, arguably one of the best players in your franchise history. You don't just send Chris Paul home. There are some real things going on with the Clippers. There are some people that thought and still hope that they can flip things around. Hey, with the recent games, with the recent effort, the recent performances, and with something like this, my confidence for them to do anything is continuing to fall and dip. And this team is probably going to give a lottery pick to a team that is the favorites to go back-to-back. I just don't know. It's a lot of turmoil. They look bad on the court. The locker room is clearly bad. The front office clearly doesn't know what they're doing. And you have a locker room where guys don't want to be held accountable after a 5-16 start. Some feelings were hurt. Chris Paul hurt some feelings. And at a time at 5-16, I think certain players, and I don't know who the players are, that you have to have expect some accountability. Somebody's going to hold you accountable if you're 5-16 and you were supposed to be a team that won 50 games. Because you just won 50 games last year. And that's all I'll leave it at, man. Y'all let me know in the comments. Give me some speculatory comments or speculate a little bit. Again, hopefully we get some news. And you know what? I'm going to wrap up on this note. And I was just on No Dunks, and I said the same thing there. And I'll say it here. I've said it before, but NBA teams, the NBA in general, GMs, coaches, players, they have to start, again, understanding that fan bases, media, and just fans in general are a lot more smarter and intuitive about what's going on in 2025 than they were 20 years ago. It's just what it is. With so much information, with so much social media presence, so much talking, so much stuff being passed along, so much leaking information, fans have a lot more sense of what's going on. So when you are doing things like this, cutting guys at 3 o'clock in the morning and putting out a release statement that tries to like save fate, it doesn't work. You can't just throw out a vague situation. Hey, we love Chris Paul. He's one of the best, and he was great with the Clippers. We're going to send him home. It's not because we're bad, but yeah, we sending him home. Y'all take care. You can't do that. And I think it's even worse when teams try, because now you have me and you have a million other podcasters, YouTube creators who are going to speculate and try to figure this thing out, right? You have social media now on all of these different platforms, and it just creates a bigger distraction. And the last thing a 5-16 team needs is a distraction. And the awareness, again, from these GMs, these owners, these teams, these coaches, these players, as if they don't know this already and they can't figure this out, is mind-blowing to me. The days of just saying bullshit or releasing vague statements and thinking everybody is going to just move on or it's going to be acceptable, those days are over. You can't get away with it anymore. I appreciate y'all. I'm Pee Wee the Plug. Make sure y'all subscribe to Pee Wee the Gamer. We uploading content on this channel and Pee Wee the Gamer all December long, and I don't want y'all to miss anything. Stay warm. If you got some snow, we got a bunch out here in Chicago. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Be safe. Peace.